All right, here we are for the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Anaheim. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined in the booth by Nathaniel Price.
Yes, you are.
And we're going to be checking out really just a clash of the titans here in the first match. We're going to be seeing on the right hand of the screen
the Dragon Master himself, Brian Kibler.
And on the left you see Eric Froelich. Now, both of these guys are stalwarts of the Pro Tour. Brian happens to be a Hall of Famer.
Can't imagine how he got that.
I guess winning two Pro Tours would help, and showing a gesture of friendship before they even start, he decides to shake
so
hands.
Darling.
He's a nice dude. Okay, it looks like we're going to be checking the sound to make sure that we sound good for you guys. So if you don't currently, Rashad's on it.
They're both playing decks that are, well, very much their decks. Like Eric Froelich's playing the Blue-White-Red Miracles deck that is heavy on the math, which is for a poker player like him. I mean, it's definitely, I don't want to call it second nature, but it's something he's got a lot of experience with. And then Kibler, who's been streaming for the past few weeks, or not past few weeks, but for the past bit of time, this Jund deck that he's playing now. In fact, it's good enough that after seeing him stream it in a premiere event, someone went on to win a Magic Online Championship Series tournament with the same deck. So.
Right, and and this is very much Kibler's deck. It epitomizes a lot of things that he likes about Magic and what he thinks is good about Magic, and it's also his design. I mean, he made his deck.
Yeah.
So one of the key cards that we're going to see from Kibler's deck. Now, I don't know. It's pretty important in this matchup, I'd say. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the key card in the matchup, but it's Falconwrath Aristocrat.
The Aristocrat.
Yes. That. You get a look at Kibler here. And that's a card that has really kind of broken out this tournament to become one of the key cards in this block environment. Now, Eric's deck doesn't have a whole lot of ways to deal with an Aristocrat directly, but it can definitely get rid of one.
Yeah, he actually has some of the best ways to get rid of it, because Terminus directly removes it, and that's like his big major removal spell.
That's right.
The reason that it's so important in this matchup is because of the fact that it is a 4-powered haste creature, and haste is incredibly important against the deck of Froelich. I mean, he does have multiple ways to just kind of slow it down. Feelings of Dread are another amazing card at stopping that 4-powered hasting creature.
Yep.
And Eric doesn't do much on his turn.
Right. So Eric used to think twice on the end step of Kibler here, and that usually indicates that he's looking for lands. This deck wants to hit land drops all the way up to the 7th land drop, and Brian Kibler has a very slow start, really. He had an Evolving Wild to go get a mountain, and then he played an Abundant Growth, and now we've got the turn 3 Scorn Villager, which is a turn later than you'd like to see it. And he's going to pass the turn back to Eric.
Yeah, I mean, in a deck that has a really heavy 4 slot, like with your Falconwrath Aristocrat and your Huntmasters, you really like to be spending your turn 3, actually. Like, since you've got the mana acceleration, you'd like to have one of those 4 drops down on turn 3 instead of using your turn 3 to play the mana accelerator.
Yeah, and normally that's the case. Now, Brian's deck actually moves the Huntmasters into the sideboard.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we see a card that we didn't see much at the Pro Tour a couple of weeks ago, but we see now, which is Rolling Tumbler come down. And Eric seems very content to just one for one this Rolling Tumbler with Brian's Scorn Villager. And I think a part of the reason for that is that Eric's not going to play another spell that turn, so Kibler is going to get a chance to actually transform his Villager, his Scorn Villager, if he doesn't do anything.
Certainly. And the presence of Rolling Tumbler and the fact that a lot of pros were starting to play that in these red control decks is part of the reason that you see that Huntmaster moving its way to the board. In addition to the fact that in a field that's chock full of like these mid-range decks like the Jund and the Naya, as we saw in Barcelona, it's just not an amazing like standout card. It's a fine card, but it is not nearly as impactful as it is against more aggressive decks in the field.
All right, so we see a Tameo come down on turn 5 for Eric, and he is going to instantly tap the land that has the Abundant Growth on it. So he's trying to restrict Kibler's mana development, and at the same time he's restricting which colors he has access to. Currently that would be his only source of black mana.
Yes, and Kibler has failed to play a 4th land for 2 consecutive turns, so I mean, restricting his mana is going to be a very, very important strategy here.
And he attacks Tamiyo and says go. Yep. So Kibler is pretty desperate to hit a land here. Now Eric's deck has a very singular goal, and the goal is to make the game last as long as possible.
Right before it ends it as quick as possible.
That's right. And so what he actually did here was flashback Rolling Tumbler. He paid the 6 and he flashed it back to take out essentially a land on Kibler's side, which in this case happens to be a Pilgrim. And Kibler drew Abundant Growth, played it, and then drew into another Pilgrim and played that.
Yeah, this is definitely, I mean, it should go without saying, this is not a spot that Kibler wants to find himself in. Like, he needs to be the aggressive deck. Like, the longer the game goes, the better it is for Eric and his deck. The more draw steps he got. I mean, he doesn't even need, doesn't even need a miracle, a Temporal Mastery there.
So he is just going to hard cast a Temporal Mastery, and what the game plan here is can I get Tamiyo to ultimate? He is holding on to a Feeling of Dread, which is a card that we saw at the Pro Tour, and I think it's going to do a lot of work here because you can use it to what we call courting his opponent based on.
Dude, I've done all tragic slips and play opening hand.
Rashad report, and he can during his upkeep tap down his Pilgrim so that he can't use it for mana. Now in this case, he's just going to go ahead and target. Well, so this mountain should untap then, right?
Some people are so lucky.
The mountain with the Abundant Growth, that should be untapped.
I believe so.
Because Eric decided to tap down the Pilgrim so that he couldn't get attacked and keep Tamiyo from one counter at a time. But I don't actually know why that red source is tapped for Kibler. All right, so we see a flashback Think Twice. And we're going to see a loot happen from Desolate Lighthouse, one of my favorite cards from Adversary.
Please. Desolate Loot House.
Yes, sorry. I offend you. All right, so on this turn, Tamiyo is going to go to 8, and that is her ultimate. And so Kibler is going to have one turn with which to take some amount of loyalty counters off of Tamiyo. Now, I see a Devil's Play, I believe, in Kibler's hand. Okay, now he does untap that. So I don't know if I just missed something on that or why I didn't untap last time, but it does untap now. And we see one of the cards of the tournament. Oh, right, it didn't untap because Froelich took 2 turns in a row. Okay, so I guess Tamiyo's abilities just sort of pile up.
Yeah, I mean, when your opponents, break the rules of Magic, it gets really difficult to remember what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, now Kibler did hit the card we've been mentioning a lot, which is the Falcon Wrath Aristocrat, and it's threatening to attack Tamiyo. Now, Eric, he's a patient player, so what he's doing is he says, well, I'm going to activate my Desolate Loot House. I'm going to see if I hit a miracle. I didn't hit a miracle, so now I'm going to use the Feeling of Dread that I have in my hand to tap it down.
I would find it, I mean, do you think he just goes for it now that he's at 8 and ultimates?
Yep, 100%. He's just going to, so he just instantly ultimates it. And now...
Can we get this Mana Tamiyo emblem just one time?
I don't expect to win.
I'm telling you, I think I have one. I should have brought it over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
So the emblem says you have no maximum hand size, and whenever a creature is whenever a card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you may return it to your hand.
Oh, so you don't get to take ultimate turns with Temporal Mastery?
No, because it gets exiled.
Oh.
It's a replacement effect.
That's
Are you sad? Yeah. Do you feel
that
bad for
that
Eric
emblem's
right now?
not very good then. Come on now.
You feel pretty bad for Eric right now? Is it?
I think it's impossible, yeah.
And Kibler says, I've seen enough here. And what he was going to do, he could do it many different ways, but he actually, Eric had a, not Faithless Looting, what am I thinking of? A Thought Scour in his hand. And so it's kind of interesting because Tamiyo's emblem interacts with different cards in different ways.
Thought Scour, putting cards into your graveyard, and since they would go to your graveyard, it's basically like Ancestral
They
Recall.
draw
You
they just draw
cards instead.
That's right. And then, alternatively, you can point it at your opponent. And you just get your Thought Scour back, so you can just mill them for 2, mill them for 2, mill them for 2, mill them, and just mill them out. I mean, most of his mana produces blue.
That's excellent.
All right, so we see Eric take down game 1 in pretty convincing fashion after Kibler stumbles on his mana.
As you can see from this bracket here, this left side of the bracket is pretty stacked because we are looking at the bottom left-hand side right now as our match. The top left match is Paul Reitzel against Jason Rossellini, and it's a Boros on Jund match. So we saw that earlier, and the matchup
What do you do?
tend to favor the Jund.
It should, I think, but it feels like maybe it's just like Paul Breitzel's skill with that type of deck, but it feels like he's actually just can pull ahead and work out game plans that can beat it. But normally,
Yeah.
I mean, if you told me Boros versus Jund, I would say Jund. Just
Yeah.
Jund has the edge no matter what. They have access to way more removal than Boros does. And if Boros' creatures don't stay on the battlefield, red and white creatures, they die to everything.
Yep. So this left side of the bracket has got a significant chance to just put up some stellar matches in the near future.
So if Reitzel wins, then he would play the winner of Eric and Brian here?
Yeah, and it's possible after if things continue as they have, we could get another Paul Reitzel, Eric Froelich
Damaging.
matchup.
A rematch.
Yeah, like 2 matches in a row where we just see 2 players playing their deck against each other. It's pretty sweet.
Fantastic. And what do we look at on the right-hand side?
Well, we got Michael Hopkins, who we've seen a couple times, including the final round of the Swiss, playing his Angel Reanimator deck.
right.
Played it very, very well. Did some excellent, cool little combo-tastic things with it. And he's playing against Mark Leg, who's playing a very, I don't want to call it an unorthodox deck, but it's the minimalist version of some of the other decks that we've seen. It's just red-green beats. It's running the Kessig Wolf run, the red and green creatures. It's very similar if you saw the coverage in Barcelona to the red-green deck that was being run by Matthias Hunt and his team.
Okay, yeah. And we saw Philip, I forgot his last name, but we saw him on day one with a similar deck, right? This red-green deck.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing. I mean, it's the Stranglewood Geists all the way up through, the 4 drops and 5 drops, Zealous Conscripts in the deck too. And
Zealous Conscripts, and we're going to see
no,
Wolfer Silver Hearts, I'm sure.
Yep. And then down at the bottom, you see Noah Kessel, who's playing Boros. Same deck Paul Reitzel is on the exact opposite side, red-white aggro beatdown. And it's against one of the other big aggro decks in the format, the Bant Spirits deck that Go Dennis and Finkel made top 8 with Barcelona in. It's being played by Alex Sittner here.
What do you think about 2 Boros decks making the top 8? That was the deck that we, had a moment of silence for in Barcelona because we just kind of pronounced it dead. But
I think it's pretty awesome, and it's looking like we're inching closer to it. I just received information that Paul Reitzel is up a game on Rossellini right now with his Boros deck, and Kessel is also up a game against John Sittner with his Boros deck. So
wow,
it's an interesting study in how the format changing can result in different decks being predominant. So.
It's funny how that deck started out as the presumably predominant deck. It fell immediately out of favor, and now it seems to be back with a vengeance.
The metagame, she is a restless and unforgiving woman.
Yeah, and if things work out, we could even see a Boros mirror match in the final potentially.
Yeah,
which would be kind of interesting. Although, how do you go against Paul Reitzel with a Boros deck in the mirror? He knows knows that thing too well.
Exactly. I mean, all of these matchups, all of them, all of the quarterfinal matchups are incredibly interesting. Potentially the least interesting match that we could see in the top 8 would be a Jund on Jund mirror matchup that might have happened after the semifinals. Should Kibler pull it out and play against Reitzel's opponent and Rossellini.
Get the play.
And I mean that is the only real matchup I can see where we've seen that a bunch this weekend. So it's the only thing that would really be repetitive and it's really cool. It's not very often that you see a varied top 8 like this, because this is a very varied top 8, and see as many interesting matches. And it looks like plays started again in this second game of the quarterfinals here. Kibler started off with an Abundant Growth on his Forest. Looks like he's got Olivia Voldaren, I think, in his hand. Or is that an Aristocrats?
I definitely see the Zealous Conscripts, which...
See, reading Kibler's hand is actually kind of difficult, as you can tell, because he's, frenetically shuffles through his hands.
Every day.
Every day he's shuffling.
So, I see, that's a card that could do some work.
That is a card that is going to do some.
Do you see what I see?
Liliana of the Veil. I think both of us said this is a card that we can get behind any deck that's playing.
And he just plays it on turn 3, just runs it right out there, because there's really nothing to worry about.
No.
And he's just going to start plussing this and start just eating away at the resources of Eric Froelich. That's one of the things I really like about Liliana of the Veil is that she's very good against creature decks and that you can edict to your opponent, make them sacrifice a creature, but she's excellent against control decks when you can just eat away at their resources.
Ironically.
And, one of the things that we were talking about what I was talking about with Luis, who also played this deck that Froelich is on, is that deck runs a lot of mana, and it needs to hit every land drop going up. And if you let Liliana get out of control, she can ultimate and make you sack like half your lands.
Yes.
And that's going to set this deck back way too far. He immediately just discards and Entreat the Angels. I think his discards would be probably fairly easy.
Yes. and it's ironic because like he doesn't have a really good way to get rid of her.
No.
Which is a problem.
It's a huge issue right now.
Yeah.
Like this is a big, like this is going to put a lot of pressure on Eric to, I don't know, what is he going to do, Bonfire? You can redirect the Bonfire?
Yeah, that's really it.
Even then, she's already at 4, she's going to 5 right here.
The big problem, yeah, I mean, it's a really big problem because the discard ability that she's got, which is what traditionally makes her really good against the control decks, it's less effective against Froelich because he's got so many flashback cards that he plans on using anyway, and a lot of his decks are miracles, like so he cares about his draw step more than he cares about his cards in hand.
Right.
But it's the ultimate that really hurts against Froelich because he needs those lands. Like he needs to be able to cast the spells.
And he puts no pressure on his opponent until he puts all the pressure on his opponent.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that we're going to be seeing here is that Kibler can even just wait until Liliana gets all the way to 7 and then ultimate her and then just start marching up the chain again.
Yeah. While we're still talking about this game potentially going towards one player, we already have a result in one of our matches.
I can think of one player who plays very quickly with a very quick deck who might have already won.
Kenji Sumura.
Yeah, that was not him.
No?
No, I'm talking about the one in this top 8.
Well, who could that be?
Paul Rizzo. Did he win?
He did. And apparently in decisive fashion.
He's just stomping today. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh man. And guess who?
So both Boros decks have now advanced to the semis. Wow.
Man, sweet. So you can take a little bit of time off, go hang out with your friends while you wait for this match to take another 30 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That would be nice. If I'm in the top 8, I wouldn't mind a little time with my buddies to kind of get my head right. You know?
Not at all.
All right. So Kibler has also applied some pressure in the damage sense with a Falconwrath Aristocrat.
The new dragon.
Yeah.
He's going to have to change his nickname to Vampire Master Kibler if he continues to play this guy.
Or Wolf Master.
Wolf Master.
I see another Entreat the Angels in hand for Eric.
Yeah, this is...
And it looks like Eric's digging. I mean, there's no Oblivion Rings in this format, right? Like,
no.
Like, there's nothing that he's going to be able to do to get Liliana. You know, you can't just like 1-for-1 with Liliana here.
No, not at all.
And I think that Liliana's going to build up her loyalty counters faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, Liliana coming down on turn 3, when you are on the draw, it puts you in such a difficult position.
You have 2 cards now? Yeah.
All right, we do see a bonfire, and it's just going to be for 1. So it's going to... Do you think he's going to redirect?
Oh, yeah.
So he is just trying to buy time here.
As you said earlier, that's what his deck does, make the game go as long as possible.
But we are going to see Liliana tick up again to 5, and she is just immediately knocking at the door again on ultimate. Okay. Borderland Ranger,
it's a dude.
Perhaps not the most exciting play, but it's a play.
Kibler's excited. He likes that. He loves that card.
He does love that card.
He will tell you anytime you ask him how he'll respect Borderland Ranger.
It's weird. I tend to surround myself by people who love Borderland Ranger. I don't know why.
You just hang around smart people.
I guess so.
Borderland Ranger is a wonderful card.
Mike Flores loves that card.
I mean,
my buddy John Laux loves that card.
Yeah, you had a conversation with Luis earlier about the mana in this format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what more could you want than a 3-drop that fixes your mana and gives you like a 2-power body in the process?
I can't argue with that.
I mean, I guess you could want the Million Angels, but well, let's see. It's difficult to see how Froelich is going to get himself out of this situation. Well, taking extra turns is definitely one way to get there, so drawing a Temporal Mastery is certainly going to help him. He's just milling through his deck looking for more lands. And finding them.
So he's up to 6 lands here. And he is in a race of loyalty counters.
Yeah.
This isn't the thing that you find yourself racing that often, but when you do...
It's not a count down anymore, it's a count up.
Yeah, I mean, these things, those loyalty counters just keep ticking away, and you can feel the noose tightening, as it were. So no miracle here. Liliana needs to get to 6 counters before she can ultimate. And I think, judging by the way things have gone here, he will probably just ultimate her as soon as humanly possible. And it looks like he's just going to have to make an angel here. Just make a 4/4 flying angel token, because the way things sit, he needs to put pressure on Liliana. He can't just sit.
Yep.
So Kibler's deck has a lot of removal in it, but does it have... Did he keep it in? You know, does he have it right now that he can use to take out that angel? Does he have another aristocrat that he can use to block?
He has Zealous Conscripts in his hand.
I see that. That doesn't really do what he wants here, though, does it?
Not at all.
I mean, Kibler can, of course... I guess he's just going to have to do it. He's going to take this and just attack with everything. So...
Oh yeah.
He can make himself sack the creature, so he can get rid of it. But really, I think, a big part of his game plan was getting Liliana to ultimate range, and he just had to say, well, I guess I'm just going to have to beat down here.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to do anything else with this turn. He might as well get value and drop Froelich. I mean, he effectively, he's got lethal in 2 turns. 1 if he draws.
Yeah, 2 turns just feels like a long way away here. And I mean, how many feelings of dread are hanging around in Eric's?
At least 1. That's probably another reason he went for it, is because he had a window. The feeling of dread was not impacted. Yeah. Or would not impact him, I should say.
I'm not sure how many X spells. I can't remember if Kibler's running
Devil's Play.
Devil's Play.
Part of me wants to say I think he's running a single copy of it.
Okay. All right, so there's the feeling of dread that we were just talking about.
Tap 2 creatures to remove a card from your opponent's graveyard.
Yeah, and we see a Dissipate discarded by Froelich here.
Again, die roll, important.
Yes. And he just says go. I did see another feeling of dread in Froelich's hand, however.
I'm sorry, what?
No, that's what he's saying.
Highest seeding is going first. I mean,
yeah, he's saying going first.
Yeah, it's still important. Yeah, this is game 2 anyway, so.
I love how this entire game is kind of bent around Liliana. Like, she's just sitting there, and like the complexion of this game has completely changed as a result. There's another one out of the graveyard.
Planeswalkers.
Do you have any more? He says.
That would be a no, sir.
He does have one in his hand. At least one in his hand.
But Brian doesn't know about that. It's a secret. Shh.
I told you. It's gonna happen at some point. I'll pick up one. Just have to wait you out. Go.
All right, so it's like we're back on Eric. He's contemplating what he can do here.
I mean, at this point, it's always so hard to tell what's going to happen with these decks. I don't like speculating about what's going to happen, because a single draw step can completely change that.
All right, so Tamiyo's going to come down and tap down the Zealous Conscripts.
7.
Planeswalker fight?
Oh, conscripts will untap my conscripts, attack you for lethal. And Brian Kibler will take it with an often overlooked ability. The conscript had to untap any creature.
Taking one. Boom.
He saw it coming. He knew right away.
Oh yeah.
So he evens up this game, or this match.
You win, Paul?
And we're going to see a game 3 decider here. He doesn't look very stressed out, does he?
No, not really. Neither of them really do. I mean, I can't imagine two players who've been in higher pressure situations like this. There's a rather short list of guys who've been playing under this sort of scrutiny, and like both of them are pros at it. And look, we got 2 names on our board already in the semifinal round.
Unshockingly, they're both the Boros list.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was going to be 2 decks that advanced this quickly, we would have to guess that it was them.
No, I don't know. Like the Jund decks are very, very fast.
They can be.
And the Spirits deck is also really fast. So I mean, it's really hard to tell. Like those are definitely the rounds that I would expect, considering neither of the decks are like playing Miracles or Reanimator, which the other 2 quarterfinal matches are.
Yeah.
That's the one you expect to be a little bit slower.
Truth.
Yeah. Well, so we know that there's at least going to be a Boros representative in each of the semifinals, which...
How do you feel about that?
I'm trying to figure that out. Like, I mean, I think it's awesome, personally. I think that the change-up... Cool. I think that, I mean, because the change-up between the format from Barcelona and the format here is marked, and I think it's really cool to see. I also think it's interesting because you get, like, the next round... I mean, if Kibler pulls it out, we're going to see a Jund-Boros matchup on this side, which is just a second round in a row that Reitzel's going to have to play that. But if not, like if Froelich pulls this out, you could see like the control-ish deck versus the control deck versus the like highly aggressive deck. And
Sweet.
I mean, we talked about this in the Swiss. I mean, this is the version of the control deck that was designed to beat the aggro deck, and as we learned. Doesn't necessarily work that way because Paul Reitzel definitely beat Eric Froelich earlier in the Swiss. For the other side, I mean, we're looking at a red-green beat stack that rides the line between being aggressive and being mid-range, and it has the ability to one-up the Boros deck, which makes you believe it might potentially be bad times.
It was the thing you were talking about earlier, which is that it's 1 step slower, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, or maybe like a half step slower.
Yeah, exactly. It's a half step slower, but a half step bigger.
Right. Okay, so we do have the deck list here too that we can survey. So there's 2 Liliana the Veils for Brian. So he hit one of his 2, and it turned out to be a completely key part of the matchup, kind of changing around the way that Eric played it. Look at Eric; he's holding on to the 2. Look at him; he's petting it. You can tell he wants to have that sitting down on his side.
You have a Commander Crush event going on.
As he looks to the skies for inspiration.
Appropriate, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would probably be doing
So
similar.
come sign up for the Commander Crush.
Let's see. So it's clear. It looks like that Froelich brought in his Dissipates out of the sideboard. I would imagine the Pillar of Flames probably came in to bring those in and take care of that. Next card, that's another card that's really helping Liliana. I mean, it's not
At least
ideal.
keep it in check.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm not sure. You probably don't bring in the Gisela in here. Conscripts definitely come in. So, yeah, it's definitely a fairly decent sideboard plan. On the opposite side, Kibler's main deck is set up for this matchup. He's not running the Huntmaster. He needs to get rid of those tragic slips, which definitely came out to add those 2 Lilianas, and let's see.
Come on, sweetness.
Like Grafdigger's Cage seems pretty solid in this matchup.
We see them shake hands again before this final match. I'm sure they just wish each other luck.
Yeah.
They are friends, but you know how it is when you play Magic against your friends. You almost want to beat them more than a random person.
Oh yeah.
Magic players,
Yeah,
Magic players.
they get to talk trash like
There
they
are
beat you.
7 people that think they have a better standard deck than you. Come over to the public event stage and prove them wrong.
Moment of truth. Eric is looking at his hand intently.
He is, and Kibler's probably just looking at Eric intently, so trying to see, how happy is he with this?
Can I get a read
Right.
on the man who makes a living not giving reads?
He says, I am going to mulligan.
It's a pretty easy read then, I'd say.
He looks at his next couple of cards and kind of gives a chuckle as he shuffles. And it looks like Kibler's
Yeah.
mulliganing as well.
Ever the gentleman.
You guys at May.
Oh, you'd like to go to 6? Please allow me to go with you. Make this fair.
Yeah, well, it's got to be fair,
Oh,
right?
yeah, only.
That's how this works.
Yeah.
I played very bad. What was that? Which one was it? Austin?
All of them.
I mean, anyone dressed
Doesn't matter.
dapper and
Always
dandy
looking.
is Brian Kibler. I know what the thing with dressing dapper and dandy when you're on a camera.
Drop all your cards on the table.
I wasn't expecting to be on the camera today. I didn't think my voice was going to hold up, so I decided to opt for the "Leave Me Alone, I'm Not a Judge" shirt.
But
you sound pretty good right now.
I'm going to be really rich soon.
You've recovered.
Yeah. I don't know what it was.
Richer.
I guess I just hit pretty hard. Like, I think I was pushing out a little bit more today. I decided I should be a little bit quieter with my mic closer and hopefully stick around for a little longer. It's a lot more fun watching Magic on like this side, because when you're watching on the like tech side, you're watching Magic, but you can't pay attention to what's going on. Like, there's too many other things to pay attention to. It's a lot easier now that we don't have to do life totals.
Yeah.
But it's pretty rough. Like, being around Magic for an entire weekend, having had Magic play in front of your eyes for an entire weekend, and not be able to have you haven't watched any of it.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
I like sitting here and watching. I get my own TV just to watch these matches.
Yeah.
So much better.
It's fun talking about it too, because I mean, you actually get to pay attention to the storylines. You got someone to talk to about the matches, which is nice. Really sweet. I mean,
the nut affinity deck versus the
it's fun to try to guess what's going on. Like, that's my favorite part about doing coverage, is guessing what's going on, and you feel so good.
It was kind of crazy having Luis in the booth with me earlier, because like the guessing was gone. I just knew that he I was right, I guess, or no, he was right, I guess. I was wrong. All right, so we've got double mulligans, so each player has mulligan, but we're going into game 3 here, and this is the game to decide who gets to move on.
You had 8 somber covers.
Two big names clashing into each other here in the top 8 of this GP, and only one of them can move forward into the semifinals.
John,
both of them playing decks that they're very comfortable with, that they built themselves.
Better luck to the both of them.
You know, I talked to Chapin, I talked to Luis.
You have fun.
They all said that this is really Eric's deck.
Yeah. I mean, fully understand, fully expect that. And as we've seen and talked about, this is Kibler's baby.
Yeah.
Sweet from see the battle. Mulligans are interesting for both of these decks. Like, it's obviously bad for Froelich to mulligan, because he needs resources, he needs lands, he needs cards. Like, that's how he wins. And you'd think with the more aggressive deck, like, mulliganing favors Kibler, because like he has the deck that can punish people's mulligans better. But being a deck that has a weaker mana base, mulligans are just as difficult on him as they are on Froelich. For totally different reasons.
All right, so it looks like we've both kept, and yeah, the Pilgrim, we know him. It's a good start for Kibler. That's definitely where he wants to be. He wants to get big, get fast, put a lot of pressure on Eric before Eric has the time to set up a whole bunch of lands and a lot of miracles. And he is going to play Triumph of Ferocity.
Your winner for the Fantasy Pro Tour enchantment slot. Even with only a 1-powered creature on the table,
he is going to be able to. Now, so is this going to? How big is this for Kibler? Like, all right. Well, first things first. Eric drew his card. He didn't miracle it, but he just hard cast and got rid of his creature. So that's going to keep Brian from drawing.
Does that answer your question there? Actually,
it does and it doesn't. I think that Eric does that either way.
True.
You know? It's essentially killing a land, and I think he would stone rain there if he had the opportunity.
I do agree with that.
But still, you know, one of the things we were talking about earlier was how important are cards in this matchup. Like, normally against a control deck, if you can just grind out and get more cards than they do, you're very happy. But this Miracles deck, it just feels like once it gets to that point in the game, it's just going to put up so many angels and things that it doesn't care how many cards you have.
True, but in the meantime, what it does is it allows Kibler to extend without fear of overextending.
Okay.
Because then he'll have the resources in reserve to be able to continue to add threats to the board after the fact.
That makes a lot of sense. And boom, we see Tamiyo come down and act as essentially another Stone Rain.
And an important Stone Rain too, getting rid of that land with the Abundant Growth on it.
Which was his only red source. And we see another Abundant Growth. So we see Abundant Growth kind of cycling through Kibler's deck here, and he is going to play a Borderland Ranger now and go get probably a mountain, and there it is. And now he's also got a creature. So at the beginning of his upkeep, if that thing's still alive, we're assuming that he's not going to be facing down any bigger creatures at that point. Even if it gets tapped down by Tamiyo, it doesn't matter. What's going to end up happening is there's going to be a trigger on the stack, and Kibler's going to draw an extra card. And if he starts drawing 2 cards a turn, I could definitely see a nice advantage coming off of that Triumph.
I completely agree. I got information that Mark Laleg and his red-green beats deck are up a game on Michael Hopkins' Reanimator deck.
Okay.
Which makes sense. I mean, I would not be surprised either way with the way the match went. The Reanimator deck is so powerful that, I mean, it can obviously steal games that it's looking like it's going to lose, and it's got a pretty good defense against the aggressive deck, but you generally favor, since this version of Reanimator is far more of a combo-oriented deck, the matchups generally tend to favor the aggressive deck in those matchups.
All right, so I think Eric's tanking here.
Yes. What is he tanking with?
I can't quite see. I see a Plains.
Conscript.
I see a Zealous Conscript.
That's what I thought
see
that
an
was.
Island, and I see a Temporal Mastery. So the Plains is going to come down. That's going to put him to 6 mana, so he's not up to Temporal Mastery range yet. Is he just going to play the Conscript? That would give him a bigger creature than what Kibler has currently, and it would prevent him from drawing a card. I don't know if it's worth it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth it to prevent from the card. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think it can be worth it. It's got to be much better to hold off on that for an Aristocrat, right?
You'd think it just essentially kills an Aristocrat.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is Froelich specialties. This is math right here, trying to figure out which one is going to have the highest impact. The extra cards that Kibler's going to be drawing, or the Aristocrat later.
He is going to play out the Conscripts here.
Although we just attacked for 2.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's just going to steal the thing and just attack for 2 and just leave the Conscripts up. I mean, Eric keeping his life total up is critical, while him beating down Kibler is not.
You know, at the same time, he does have, like, Kibler's got access to a lot of mana now, and...
Okay, so it looks like he actually...
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it's like tapping on the land becomes less important now that Kibler's got access to all those lands, and he untapped his own land, giving him access to Feeling of Dread should he need it.
Right.
Very smart.
Now, I don't think he has it in his hand, though, does he?
I'm not sure, but you know what? Wouldn't put it past the man to at least represent it. So.
What just happened? Oh, see, Kibler accidentally untapped his Ranger, but who was meant to stay tapped. Okay.
Right.
Drew his card for the turn. Now he doesn't get an extra card because somehow Eric has a bigger creature than Brian does on the table.
Although Brian does have a Zealous Conscript of his own, which, hey,
that'll work as well.
Speak of the human.
So, do you take this? Okay. And then just attack Tameo to kill it? So now we're going to find out if Eric does have a Feeling of Dread, which I don't think he does. He doesn't, and Tameo's going to take it. Oh, that was a big swing for Kibler there.
Attack Tameo.
Got me.
I don't know.
Zealous Conscript is doing work.
It does so many different things. Oh, what a huge swing.
It is an early favorite of mine.
And you know what else it does is it's tied for highest power on the table as well, so the Triumphant Ferocity on his next upkeep will draw him a card.
It's just a massive swing.
That was huge. And we see a Terminus come down. Well, let's just swing it right back again. Jeez, this is just haymakers.
I love this so much.
Kibler uses those conscripts in really amazing ways too. Like, he seems to find, just like the last time he did it for the win, and this time it takes out Tameo.
Yeah.
So we get to watch Kibler's whole hand before Eric's going to use his loot house most likely.
It's like Borderland Ranger.
Looks like a 4-drop, so it's a Huntmaster. It does resolve. Kibler's going to go back to 18. It provides a little bit of pressure here, but Kibler can't be super stoked unless he starts finally drawing cards off that Triumph and starts getting ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine card. Like, the problem is it's late in the game, so it's not as awesome, but, like, using one card to provide multiple threats.
I think Eric might have tapped one too many lands there, but he did use his Lighthouse.
Cycle.
Yeah, that was from his hand. He didn't miracle it. He's just going to cycle it.
It's not a miracle. It is, again, not a miracle.
Eric seems like he's pretty concerned about Kibler starting to draw cards off of Triumph.
Well, understand. I mean, how many cards does Kibler have in his hand? 3?
I believe 3.
It's hard to tell, because the way he's shuffling, it makes it look like 7.
We had a viewer on Twitter say that he was laughing because Kibler was shuffling 1 card.
Oh, yeah. Like, Kibler manages to shuffle one card, and even when he's like not holding his hand, he manages to shuffle, puts it down, picks it up, puts it down, picks it up, puts it down, picks it up. Like, he's the only man I've ever met who can shuffle with one hand. Froelich is definitely in the tank.
Okay, so he just plays an island and passes the turn. There's a trigger, draw a card, go to your draw step, draw a card. Oof, that feels good.
Yeah, for one side of the table.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I've been in that position unlimited before, and you start drawing a bunch of cards, you're real happy. And it kind of feeds itself, you know, because he's going to draw things that are big, and like you said, he can now extend a bit.
I was really happy when I saw Triumph Ferocity at the Pro Tour. Like, I was very surprised, but as soon as I saw someone put it into play, I'm like, oh yeah, that card's awesome. Like, good find, good find.
Right, so it looks like we're going to the attacker step, and that is allowed to happen, and he's going to get in for 4 here.
I'm curious as to whether Eric told him to back up there after he turned his guy sideways.
I think he did.
Yep.
That is time in the round.
Little mental tricks.
I mean, I think that Kibler is fully aware that Eric doesn't have a feeling of dread in his hand, so he just assumed, look, I'm just going to send him in because I know you don't have it.
Yeah.
It's good to be cautious in that way. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So what are we going to see? Is this another Borderland Ranger?
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's good for both players to represent one thing over another.
So Eric still has. Oh, that's the other thing. So it's not about just feeling a dread. Remember, Eric can use his lighthouse at any time and go for a miracle before attacks. I mean, it doesn't really change whether Kibler's attacking or not. But it's something to consider.
Yeah, and he's got Think Twice too. Well, had Think Twice.
Sarah Canosa. Will Sarah Canosa please report to the public event stage? Will Sarah Canosa please
This is a danger zone for Kibler, actually. Like, Froelich is deep enough in the game with enough lands in play that things could rapidly get out of hand for him. Like, his one real big saving grace is that Froelich has a bonfire in his bin.
Attention, legacy competitors, your round.
Yeah, he doesn't have another.
They're just running one.
Yeah, he doesn't have another
Once
one.
again, legacy competitors,
And we see an
There it is.
Angels come down here for the full amount.
Please take a look at them and find your
1, 2,
seats.
3,
Was that
4 of them.
Miracled?
No, I don't think it was Miracle.
Okay.
If it was, we're going to see a huge pile of Angels
That's
come down.
what I get for looking away for a second. So
So it was for 3.
one of these.
That's the price you pay for beauty.
All right, well, Eric has definitely stabilized now.
My guys are bigger.
And they're bigger, yeah. So again, the Triumph from Ferocity, I really thought he was going to be drawing a lot of cards off of that, but Eric has kind of crafted this game state so that he's had a bigger creature at a lot of stages here. I think Kibler's only gotten 1 card off it.
It's very wise. I'm actually really surprised that with the cards that have been out and the cards we've seen played, that Eric is still at 16.
Yeah.
Like, I guess Kibler didn't have an incredibly large amount of offense, but there's multiple conscripts
Rangers
played. Yeah. I think only one for Kibler, but I mean, Tamio puts
those
the
got
kink in the
Terminus.
works.
Yep, that's true.
That was pretty for 7. I wish
So
that
Kibler
was
is going to
7.
Devil's play
Interesting.
to the head.
7 to the dome.
Okay, so he's going to do it to the face. That way, it takes away Eric's attacks, right?
It certainly limits them.
Yeah, like if Eric attacks for 12, it brings Kibler to 6, but Eric's at 9.
But
and
Eric,
Kibler can just crack back and win.
temporal mastery.
If there's
here is
any number of
just-
cards that just kill me.
I know. That's the
One
game.
fire, time walk, and
Yeah,
all of
because
these cards
Kibler's
kill me.
completely tapped out and has no fire. So if there's a temporal mastery at some point here in Eric's future, then that would be the match.
Oh gosh, I love watching. Froelich just does it every single time. Like, just the slow peel.
He sure does. You know, he kind of relishes that, I think.
Oh, you know he does.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a dangerous spot for Eric to be in too. Zealous Conscripts is quite a problem at this spot too.
Oh, that's a great point too. And we've seen that Kibler has a way of kind of finding the right spot to really maximize on those conscripts.
Yeah. I mean, Eric has so many options though. Like,
Where are all Eric's feelings of dread? Those would have been pretty nice.
yeah.
A lot of insurance here. All right, so we're just going to think twice during our main phase because he has enough mana to just cast a temporal mastery.
He's so fast. Just put it into his hand. Don't even get us a chance to look. What a jerk. Oh, is that a dissipate? I think I saw a dissipate. My eagle eyes.
Or whatever brand glasses you have.
Yeah.
So are we just going to see one angel flying in here, or
pass?
He's thinking. 2 of them. All right, so he's going to hit in for 8. That's going to bring Kibler to 10.
Yeah, I
now,
guess.
So if he does have a dissipate now, that alleviates a lot of the pain and the worry about conscripts, because he can just counter it.
And the second devil's play.
No enemies and stop.
Which, I mean, this attack right here signals to Kibler that he's either got Feeling of Dread or a dissipate in his hand.
Right. I don't know if Kibler has the tools to deal otherwise. All right, so he's just going to pile all of his guys in, block the Huntmaster. He's going to bring Eric to 5. So Kibler goes for it, dissipate, and it extends the hand, and that's it. So Eric Froelich grinds that one out with about 1 billion lands on the table, and he is going to take down this match and advance to the semifinals.
Meticulously played.
Yeah.
It was in a match that, I mean, he didn't use a single Feeling of Dread. I wonder if he had them in his deck. Like, I can't see a reason at all he would not. But.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we also already see was Thought Scour, which it has a way to find more feelings of dread. He just wasn't able to get the ending going. But Kibler was just never able to quite get enough pressure on him, you know, to make it work. We didn't see Liliana.
I don't see any Feelings of Dread as he summoned through his deck.
Yeah, I thought.
And Mark Balad won the other match, so we've got red-green beats on Boros for the other semifinals, and the semifinals that we're going to see is a rematch.
Are we going to see Paul Rietzel versus Eric Froelich in the summer?
I believe we are. Yeah, he sided out Thought Scour and Feeling of Dread. Like, I'm curious if he was wondering, like.
So, geez, so we're going to see a rematch of a match that we saw earlier.